My name is Sarah Jerem, and you're watching Artistic Digs. This series shines a spotlight on musical contemporaries who inspire me to talk with them and learn more about their creative space. So, I'm so happy to have with me today my good friend and bandmate, Jeff Luciani. Hey,
Hey,
hi, welcome. Thanks for
you're
joining.
welcome. Thanks. Thanks for having me.
Jeff Luciani is a Canadian drummer and percussionist from St. Catharines, Ontario. After graduating from the applied music program offered through Mohawk College, Jeff began to establish himself in the jazz, improvised music, singer songwriter, and Brazilian music communities in the Niagara region and Toronto. He has since gone on to tour throughout the world with celebrated Canadian artists, the Deers, Derek Miller, Sean Jones, and Madison Violet. Alongside his life as a professional musician, Jeff also works as an independent Foley artist. He lives in Toronto, Canada. So, how have you been doing, like, with
The whole thing.
the whole thing?
Coming up on a year, man.
I know.
How have I been doing? Let's see. Overall, well, for sure. Yeah, overall good. It's been some ups and downs for sure. I think with, most of the population of the world, there's a good times and bad times. But the through line was everything's been pretty good.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah. How
yeah,
are
yeah.
you?
It's a complicated question, eh? It's like, how to
Yeah,
respond?
yeah,
Well,
totally.
the world is topsy turvy, but I've been all right too. Again, like hit and miss. Some days
Yeah,
are easier than others, for sure. Like, what have you been? How have you been spending your time, like musically, creatively?
sure.
Or not?
Yeah, no, good for adding or not because there's been some of those moments.
Yeah.
I think early on, like this time last year, when everything kind of got shut down mid-March 2020, um, maybe like most people, I don't I can't speak for most people, but I was like zoned in on practicing. I like I went I had a period of practicing that I haven't had in a long time, um, without any sort of upcoming work or projects to work on or things to have together. It was just me time practicing whatever I wanted to get working on. So I'd say for like the first 2 months, I had a solid every day. I should also note, I'm very fortunate that I was able to go to my practice space. I share a practice space with other musicians. They chose not to go in, so I had the whole space to myself for for a while. But those 2 months, I could leave my gear set up. No one was coming in. It was quiet, and that was, a great environment to do some work. So early on, the first couple of months, I was really shedding on things I always wanted to spend, a lot of time on, as opposed to just a couple days or an hour on. I can now spend a couple months on it. And I was that kind of stuff. I was working on my jazz playing, just working on my time feel and improvising in that context and lifting and just kind of doing all that stuff, as well as working out of a great book by musician, drummer, composer Billy Martin. Has this great book, Claves of African Origin, rhythm book, and that's great. I mean, many drummers know it, many musicians know it, so it was great to just spend um, 2 months or so like really diving into that. So that was early on, um, and then through May till about end of summer, I was recording a lot. Some friends of mine, I guess for songwriters, this was a good time for them to just work on a lot of demos and all that kind of stuff. So friends of mine would send me things to record. So I got to learn a lot more about recording myself. I've been into a lot of studios and, you know, took some information here and there, but this was the first time I really had to sit down and check it out, like really learn about the whole signal chain and getting a good tone and stuff. So that was a practice, um, in developing, my musical horizons and chops and getting all that together. So so some of that practicing early on, then a bunch of recording. And now these days over the winter into now, it's still some of the same old of that. Lots of recording. The recording has been a mainstay through all of this. Um, and just at the drums, I just do a lot of play alongs. So just play along to stuff. Just playing along. I've since kind of put away again like the technical practicing, like really honing in on like weird metronome placements or like just doing all that stuff and just playing along with music that I like and
Mhm.
working on my, overall drumming that way.
Yeah.
So that's been what's been going on, I guess, over the year in terms of me at the drums.
Wow. Wow.
Yeah. Yeah. But through all that, there was, some, a lull, a little lull here and there, or a lull of not being super creative, or like it's gone kind of up and down a bit, but fairly consistent
Wow.
overall. Yeah.
Sounds like you've done really well. Like, like lulls are, yeah, those are
Yeah.
real.
Oh
Uh,
yeah, yeah, for sure.
yeah, even like on non-pandemic times, lulls are real. But
Well, that's
yeah,
the thing. Well, yeah, non-pandemic times I can find myself getting overwhelmed. Like I got like there's just a lot to do. So there's a different kind of lull that I have with that. Whereas now there isn't a lot to do, or definitely there wasn't at the beginning. And I could focus more on other things, but then a different kind of lull would happen, you know. So yeah, it's always up and down and stuff. But I think overall, like it's been a year. I've done pretty good with my time. I think, I didn't, you know, well, I don't know, but yeah, I've done pretty well. I think I had a good time at the drums. But it's funny, I haven't played. I mean, I've played one show, which was with you and Dream Logic. That's it.
wow.
And I have another show coming up, which we can talk about later. But that's it. That's my second show in a year. So it's almost like, yeah, I've been like getting the drums together, but how do I play with people? Like, I could just see myself like counting in the band and like rushing right off the second bar and like hitting too hard and be like, woo, and it's like, okay, take a
Totally.
breath,
Yes. Oh
So
man, I hear you. Like Rob and I just started doing like, you would think two musicians playing together, we would be playing, especially when other people can't be playing together. But it's almost like, you take it for granted a little bit, and also there's just that sort of sense of the loomingness of the pandemic and whatever. But anyway, we have a live stream show, just like a duo thing coming up like next week, and so we started, playing together a little bit more,
yeah,
and it's just that same sort of thing of like, oh, how do we do this again? Like,
yeah, right.
both of us. It's just such a strange feeling to be playing with live musicians again. It's great.
Sure. I think what I can anticipate um, is listening. This is going to be a huge kind of re-lesson in listening. It's because I can play along to albums and things that I enjoy and listen and whatever, but I haven't had to listen to someone else's groove or like where they're putting their ideas or they're in the moment where it's all kind of organic. It's just been like I've been listening to the metronome, I've been listening to this album. So I feel all that stuff, whatever, like playing. I mean, we've been doing this for, almost half our lives now. I would assume, yeah, more than half our lives. That's going to be no problem. But like to have to like, it's like, oh, I got to like make sure the listening is on point because I've played the drums, but I haven't had to listen to, six other people, well, more than that on this gig coming up. Um, and like have to get the groove together with
Yeah.
all of us. So that's going to be fun and interesting and we'll see what happens. Hopefully
Yeah.
it's good, like in terms of um sound. Like I'd hate to like have the first gig. I don't, to be honest, where it's happening and whatever. I think it's going to sound great, but you'd hate to go into a situation and be like, oh, here we go, and then like you can't hear something or the sound is off, and it's like, oh man, like in a regular day, this is fine, I can handle it, but you know, this is my first day back. I want everything to sound perfect.
Totally.
I want to hear everyone, and there's no, whatever. So,
yeah, of course.
but yeah, listening, I think, is going to be huge for people going back into playing with other people.
Yeah, but like, I think it's actually going to be really overwhelming. Like, I found that with our gig that we did in the summertime. Like,
Mm-hmm.
it was like,
Me too.
but awesome, because it
Yeah.
was like this sensory overload. Like, all of a sudden, I just felt like I was like really in my body, and I was really like listening, and there was like other people's body language that we could read, and this was all outdoors, so we were
Yeah.
all
Yeah.
distanced, and like the sun was shining and the cicadas were like whirring in the background, and
Yeah.
it
Yeah.
was like magic. Like, it really it made you feel like alive again.
Sure did.
And I think, you want everything to be perfect, but I think there's like that magic of it that's never gonna, even if there are mistakes, or if there's like whatever, like human, we're
Yeah. Yeah.
fallible.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. Bring on the mistakes. I don't care about that. It's like,
Yeah.
it's just, hope the vibe is good, and the sound is good,
Oh yeah, yeah.
but,
This is gonna be
but yeah,
great.
no,
We're
that gig, yeah, sorry. The gig that we did that was a great gig. It's like, it could have, not been like, just like maybe a crummy place to play, or
Yeah.
audience not really caring, or sound was not good, but everything for our gig was great. Great
Yeah.
venue, great audience, sounded great. Good vibe.
Yeah,
Yeah.
lightning dropped from the sky. It was beautiful.
Yeah, really.
Really good. Yeah. So, like, let's hear about the gig that you've got coming up.
Oh, sure. Yeah. So on the 6th of March, 2021, if you're listening to this in 2030, it's over. So yeah, next Saturday, Saturday. I'm playing with the Deers, which is a rock band I play with. They're from Montreal. I've been with them for about 10 years now. And we're going to play our first gig since 2019. So I think we played at the end of 2019. No, I don't know. We recorded. I don't even know. What day is it?
Yeah.
Who?
Just
Who cares? Anyway, none of that matters. What matters is the gig is on March 6th, but we recorded an album in 2019. It came out in May 2020. So our plans for 2020, like, we were going to be touring like 6 months or something out of the year, if you put it all together, of course, whatever, like a million other people. So we're playing a streaming show to no audience, which I haven't done yet. At least when we played, we had an audience. So this will be my first stream with no audience. So, like, smash the cymbals and then crickets, the end of the song. I haven't, it would be like a rehearsal, like a really fancy rehearsal. But so yeah, I think we're all really looking forward to it. So we get to finally play a few of the new songs that came out on the album Lovers Rock, which came out May 2020. We hadn't played any of those yet. So this will be our first time playing a few of those live. But this show is billed as the Deers 25 years. So they've been a band for about 25 years. So we're covering the whole gamut of their catalog. So yeah, we're playing super early stuff to this new album. So yeah, not only is it going to be like a fun gig for us, and we haven't played in a while, but we get to play a lot of the music that we don't necessarily play on tour. When we're on tour, it's Murray will design the set a specific way, but since this is kind of like a career spanning show, we're gonna try to knock off everything, all parts of the career. So that'll be Saturday, March 6th. We're playing at Palais Montcalm, and yeah, that'll be my first gig with them, first kind of rock gig in a year-ish.
How can people tune into it?
Yeah, you buy tickets through the theater, and you just stream it. But they can get it right from the website. I mean, I have an Instagram account with the link to the tickets in my bio. So that's a way to go through, or go through the Deers, Google them and go through their site and all that kind of stuff.
Nice. Wow,
Yeah.
that sounds so cool. I
Yeah.
think that's going to be the way to go. Like for shows going forward past COVID is going to be this combination of live stream and in person.
Sure.
And then like so that it's not exclusive to people who maybe can't go because they're immune compromised. They have
Hmm.
that option. But I know like even just like having those live streams, as much as it's like that weird cricket silence at the
Yeah.
end for
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
performers. I haven't done any live streams yet, but I've gotten a lot out of watching live streams.
Yes. Me too. Yes. Good point. Because as much as we like think, yeah, like the musicians stop playing and there's no applause or no reaction or anything like that,
Mhm.
and we can put ourselves in the shoes of the musicians and be like, oh, it's kind of weird. But as a spectator, I'm like, oh, that was great. Like, please, I hope you feel good over there. Like you're not
Yes.
hearing any applause or anything, but I love it. This is great. I'm clapping over here and we really appreciate it. So yeah, good point. Like, um, having watched a lot of streaming concerts over the last few months, does put me in a better space going to play the show, because I know people are enjoying it on the other end, even though if you don't hear anything.
Yeah, yeah. I love the ones that have chats. I don't know if this one is going to have a live chat, but like just seeing people's reactions during, well, even like seeing like a little
Yeah,
emoji
yeah,
at the end, it's like
sure,
it speaks volumes, I think.
sure, and it shows you like the whole world is in on it.
Yeah.
Like we're all there. Like there's like, greetings from here, greetings from there, and we're all clapping at this live stream. All over the world, we can't go and see this music.
Yeah.
But at the same time, now this music is being broadcast all over the world.
Yeah.
People, never mind outside of like in the world. If you're just not in that club, you're not going to see that band. Now you can see them.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. Yeah.
You're right. I agree. I think it will be the way of the future. In terms of like, that'll be an option now for sure. I think people will have that set up, and they can, I don't know, it's probably financially pretty good for them too. They can sell online tickets, streaming tickets
Yep.
at
Yep.
whatever the cost, I don't know.
Yeah. It's never going to replace being in the same room as a musician. So it
No,
really
no,
isn't like there's nothing
no,
like
no.
sitting in front of like a big band and like
Oh my
like
God.
your
Yeah.
hair is blowing back,
Trumpet spit. No, oh, geez.
Yeah, bring it on.
Yeah, yeah.
Didn't know how much we
Totally.
took for granted. Yeah, yeah. Well, I'm excited for that show.
Yeah,
Yeah,
thanks. Yeah, me too. I think we all are, like, in the band and everything. So
yeah.
yeah,
Sweet, sweet.
yeah,
So, like, you've been working on probably preparing for this gig. Like,
yes,
what have you been listening to?
yeah. The last 2 months or so, I've been deep into um, European library music from like the 60s and 70s. So like, it's like especially Italian library music. I don't know. Are you hip to library music?
No, I have
Whatever.
no
Okay.
idea.
I was introduced to. I was always aware of it, but a friend of mine in Toronto, my friend Ernest, who is a great composer and a great percussionist. I played with him in a samba band. Um, Long story short, he kind of introduced me to this library music from Italy from like the 60s and 70s. And then from there, I learned a little bit more about European library music. Library music in that time was just a bunch of session musicians, like A class people in Italy or France or UK. And there'd be composers, and all they would do is write these short pieces of music that were just mood based and genre based. And they would have a whole collection. And then directors and film producers would use them for their movies, because if you wanted to use like a really well-known song or something that um, had huge publishing rights, they couldn't afford it. right? So big time directors and stuff through the 60s and 70s could afford using a Beatles song or whatever, because it's expensive, or I mean, that's probably not a great example, but um, so they would make all of this kind of generic ambient mood music that would get compiled, and then kind of like directors that didn't have a big budget would use them for their movies.
Huh, wow.
So yeah. So if you're watching old like 60s or 70s Italian B films, you're going to get all this great music. You're getting it from like heavy players and like great composers. Think of it like what it's similar-ish to today. Similar. If you have like a YouTube channel and you sign up for like royalty-free music,
Oh,
you
yeah.
pay like a monthly subscription, and then you got this whole database of like, I want like jazz piano in my song, and you'd find whatever, and you can use it royalty free in your YouTube video or something.
Huh.
That's like a polished version of this library music. So this library music was never intended to be heard like in the way it's being heard now. Like they weren't albums. They're like, all right, let's just bang out this 2 minute vibe, and then we'll get kind of this like Brazilian vibe, or we'll get this moody vibe, and just have a huge database of this really well played composed music, and then directors can just pick what they want.
Oh, wow.
And then I'm learning about the history of it now. I got this great book. I'm learning more about the history. Somebody came along maybe in the 90s and discovered all this music on tape. And they're like, what is all this? This is fabulous. This is great, really great music. And then so companies started releasing it, getting the rights to it. And then like record labels are like releasing all this old European library music.
Whoa.
Yeah, so I know it's a bit of a mouthful. Sorry to put you through that to having to listen to all that, but I've been so into that, so deep. I'm asking my friend, and my friend Ernest is like long gone in it. So I'm like, oh man, like recommend me this, recommend me that, and what do you think of this, or what do you think of that? And so he's been really great in kind of showing me some artists and composers.
Wow.
And I just listen to that like a ton.
Wow.
Yeah. And the reason why that resonates with me so much is because I've always been, since I was a little kid getting into music, I always loved the sound and the visual together. And more on that later, but what library music is that was what it was intended for. It was intended to be used for behind something visual.
Wow.
So they're not like a pop song. This isn't like a song that's being written to like be a song. This music has been made to accompany something visual. So it's really vibey. It's like it's got something to it that I'm super into, because it's mixing the audio visual element.
Yeah.
So they're going, let's kind of get this vibe together. This isn't supposed to be heard on the radio or in someone's house on their record player. It's supposed to be chosen by a director to use in his film. So there's that element where they're intended to use it for video. And I've always loved the combination of sound and visual.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, yeah, totally. That's
Yeah.
so heavy. Like a soundscape sort of. Well, I haven't checked it out yet, but it's.
I'll send you a couple of things that I'm super into. Like it ranges the gamut. It could be like super atmospheric sound, Eno before Eno kind of thing, or it's like this heavy Italian funk thing, or the way they interpret Brazilian music is really, really great. So it's all over the place. It can be whatever, in different places, Germany, France, UK, Italy, they all had different vibes. So, and then out of all of that, I'm like really into the Italian thing right now, because it's like more funk, jazz, Brazilian influenced. And it's really great. It's super heavy.
Yeah, send it along. That would be
Yeah.
awesome.
Yeah, well,
It sounds like a rabbit hole.
oh, it is.
Rabbit hole. Wow, so cool. So like, awesome. So this kind of gets me thinking about your work as a Foley
Yeah,
artist,
yeah,
right? So
yeah.
obviously that visual connection. Like, what's when did you start doing Foley work?
When I started doing Foley work was just a few years ago. A couple of years ago, I worked on a short film, and it just kind of happened by accident. Um, our friend Harley Card was the composer for the short, and he was asked to do some sound effects, I think. And he was like, "Oh, I got a friend who's like super interested in that," which was me. And he put me in touch with the director, Eric. And that was like my first time doing it professionally, um, for someone I didn't know. Uh, and it was, yeah, it was great. And so that was a couple of years ago. But the interest in it goes back since I was like a little boy, like right around when I was like getting into drums. Um, it I was a fan of the Three Stooges, like a lot of kids were. I mean, obviously they're much older, but growing up in the '80s, our parents and whatever, Three
Yeah,
Stooges, and I remember what's that?
that's heavy. Like I wasn't. I
No,
different childhood experience.
right, right, right.
That's so cool.
So, yeah. Uh,
Sorry, I lost.
so yeah, there was a program because in the Three Stooges, there was always this weird sound effects. Like you're hip to, right? Like hitting them in the head and all that kind of stuff. That gets
Yeah.
really slapsticky comedy. So, whenever it was like that slapstick kind of comedic stuff happening, there'd be these weird sounds accompanying them as like a sound effect. And I remember watching this program about how they did that. And so Mo would like grab Curly's nose or whatever and twist it, and when he would do that, there was like this crackling sound. And the way they did that was by cracking walnuts with a walnut cracker, like, and all this. So all that kind of stuff. And I was like, what? Like I was blown away by that. Like, I don't know why. I found it so fascinating. And ever since that program, I've had like a passion and like an intense white hot passion for it ever since, to this day still. Like in my high school yearbook, I was like going to be a Foley artist, like drumming. I don't know, but it's like, I'm going to work as a Foley artist. And like, I was after high school, there was a recording arts program that I was going to attend that had a Foley section to it, a Foley arts section to the recording thing. I don't know why I didn't go to that, but I went to Mohawk instead. And that's when I did the music thing and whatever. But that passion had never left. It's still underlying. And that was yeah, really in my forefront at that age. Still is in a way. So yeah, so a couple years ago is when I first got like a job, and then I've worked on a few shorts since. A friend of mine who's a producer for television in Toronto hooked me up with a Foley artist about 6 years ago, and I would just be going to sit in. I'd just go sit in and watch them work, and I was like a boy again with the walnuts, just watching them like do all this stuff. I was like, holy cow. And these guys they love what they do, but they've been doing it their whole lives. They're like, yeah, here's a thing. And I'm like, oh my God,
Yeah.
I mean, to be honest, his wonder and curiosity, Steve Hammond, this Foley artist in Toronto, was still vibrant and still present, which was inspiring to see. But it definitely was for me because it was so new. He's been doing it his whole life. So I just go sit in on those sessions. I go to other Foley houses and other Foley studios in Toronto and just sit in and try to get my foot in the door. But it's like music. It's the same career almost. Like, how do you get in and get the gig? You got to show up. You got to practice. You got to, when that opportunity comes your way, you take it. Like there's no real schooling for it. There's no real steps. There's no resume. Like you got to be cool and be prepared and hope you get the gig.
Wow. Like,
Yeah.
do you have to have your own sort of setup? Like, how does the studio work? Because from the very limited stuff I've checked out about Foley stuff in the past, and I think there's been like DVD extras of I can't even remember
Sure,
like
sure.
what
Yeah,
you know. It
yeah.
was like I remember it because it was so fascinating, like seeing people. I think they had like bubble wrap on their feet, and they were like plop plop plop,
Yeah,
like
yeah.
walking in time with whoever's on the camera, and it had never even occurred to me that the door in the shot was not the same sound as the door that you were
Yes.
hearing. So
Yes, right.
like, do you have to have tools? Do you have to have your own sort of bag of
Yes.
sounds?
100% you have to. Um, Foley studios are a organized mess. Like
Hmm.
it's props everywhere. Like,
Wow.
yeah, so speaking at for the studios I've been to, um, there's like a live room, and then there's a projector so the Foley artist can see the playback of the film, or a big screen TV or something. And and on the floor are different floor surfaces, pits. There's one that's gravelly, and then there's one that's like dirt and grass, and then there's a concrete, and then there's wood, because the Foley artist has to recreate all the footsteps in a film. So to people who don't know anything about Foley artists, or don't really know anything about sound, if you're watching a film, all that stuff is recreated. All those footsteps, all the running in the forest on the concrete, high heels, running shoes, bare feet, whatever, whatever, that's all redone. That's not live. So there's a guy who has to recreate, or a lot of a guy, a woman, like tons of female Foley artists, um, that have to recreate all the steps on the correct surfaces with the correct shoes. So you're going to see pits, different sound surfaces. You're going to see a million pair of shoes, just not a million, but probably hundreds, definitely hundreds and hundreds of pairs of shoes. Um, and Yeah, that's just for that. And then there's like doors, different kinds of doors, um, and just props, just you name it. And so many things. There's one Foley studio I went to, and I was getting shown around, and like I opened this one little drawer, and there was like 50 Zippos, like not lighters, Zippo. I mean, it's like, and I loved it. I loved it. I loved how it's like, nope, that's not the right Zippo. Nope, that's not quite the right sound. Oh, this is the one. You know,
Yeah.
the nuance and the subtlety to anything, music. That's why I think it's another reason why I love Foley so much. That floors me.
Yeah.
So yeah, and it's chaotic. There's just props everywhere, but they're in order. It's an organized chaos. It's everything looks like they're spilling out of tubs and everything, but everyone knows where everything is.
Mhm.
Um,
Wow.
so yeah, for me, I don't have a studio like that, and being independent. Um, Whenever someone has reached out to do some Foley for their film, um, it works where I can see what I need to do first, and then gather the props I'm going to need,
Mhm.
and then do the job. Whereas in a Foley studio, they don't need to do that because they know they have everything already somewhere. They're like, yeah, just give me the film and I'll do it. Um, so yeah, it's pretty intense for that kind of stuff, like what you need. Um, but yeah, for what I've done, it's so much smaller scale, that I don't need 50 Zippos, and and I can get by with what we need. I can make it happen. It'd be fun to like go crazy with nuance, but um, as long as it sounds good and it feels good, like it's in sync, then move on.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
But that would have to have a huge budget, and you'd have to have a huge space, and you'd have to, like collect things over time, I imagine,
Yes.
and all that. Um, but yeah, like that makes sense to me. Just from like playing together, like how in tune you are with timbre and with sounds, and like oh, that goes without saying. But no,
Yeah,
I
it's
guess the
like
wrong word.
what what's the best thing that can work here?
Yes,
Yeah, yeah,
experimentation. There we go.
yeah. And then there's part of me that's like, throw it out the window, let's improvise, and like, doesn't I don't want to be picky or nuance or whatever, it's like having both is nice for
Yeah,
me. Yeah,
that is so cool. So, okay, let's go back
sure.
even further to high school because,
Ooh,
we did go to the same high school,
yeah, that's crazy.
but we didn't ever, like, really?
I knew I remember your name, like when we met later in life, and I was like, oh yeah, yeah, I remember you at Laura Secord, but yeah, we weren't in the same circles,
No, I don't know
even
why. That's
musically.
so,
Like, and you were involved with the music, the whole music thing there, right?
yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
Like,
yeah.
there was a thing on the Secord Facebook group the other day that someone posted old footage from the Music Fest trip '98.
Oh,
Remember
to
that?
South Carolina?
No, never
No.
went to South Carolina.
Okay, yeah, I didn't go
This was
either.
Ottawa, and I was
Oh,
like scouring it, just kind of like, say, oh, is Jeff there too?
I
Because
didn't. I didn't do that. No.
oh, okay,
Did you go? You went to that?
yeah,
I don't even know. I don't remember that. What was that like?
yeah. I don't remember it either, actually. To be
Yeah.
honest with you, I was watching it, going like, oh yeah, and I think the vocal jazz, like I was there for the
Mhm.
choir,
Oh, okay.
um, and then like the bands, and I don't know like if Battery, the percussion ensemble, was playing, but I do remember many other trips, just for some reason not that one, and I thought maybe we would have crossed paths at some point.
Come to think of it, I didn't do much extracurricular music stuff there. Um, I played in one of the concert bands.
Oh yeah.
I played bass in the jazz band.
No way.
Yeah, that was awesome. That was that was my introduction to the love of the bass. I mean, it was electric. I didn't.
Yeah.
I don't think there was. Maybe there was an upright there, but I played electric,
Yeah.
and it was super square, but it was fun. Like, I mean, square, like me playing jazz as a, my first time playing a bass as I'm trying to play jazz. So it was, that
Yeah.
was square, but I loved it. Um, so
Heavy
there was a
duty.
bit of that. So yeah, I wasn't involved too much. Even in battery, I don't even think I did that.
Yeah, that's so
Mm,
funny.
yeah.
Well, fate,
Anyway,
you know.
yeah, yeah. High school,
We
jeez.
collaborated later.
Yeah.
Um, that's so funny. So, like, what were you like? You were obviously doing music quite
Yes.
a bit.
Yeah.
So, were you studying locally or playing? Like, what's the
In
local?
high school, it was just bands with friends,
Yeah.
like, and playing all the time. Like, um, bless my mom and our neighbors, that we would rehearse in my mom's basement. Metal bands, just metal and
Yeah.
loud metal. 16-year-old boys metal. Yeah.
Yeah.
uh, and it was so much fun. Um, and like, not just like, just we play like punk music and whatever, but yeah, we would just put bands together and write music and play. It was so simple.
Yeah.
And it was so much fun. Like, let's get together, write, record it on our cassette deck, and just play and write and play and write, and then go get a gig at this bar we're not supposed to be in and
Yeah.
play. Like, it was
Yeah.
amazing. It was amazing.
Yeah.
That was my music thing. Playing with my friends in bands, writing music, playing gigs, for, whatever, a couple of bucks. And yeah, did I did take drum lessons through high school, out of Austinix Music downtown with
Right.
Rob Wells. Great guy, great teacher, great drummer. And yeah, that was my foundation of like learning how to read music and write out music and all that. So I was taking private drum lessons throughout high school. I don't know how long, a couple years,
Mhm.
and then playing with friends.
Wow.
Yeah,
Wow. And then
it was
you ended
great.
up at Mohawk. That's so.
Yeah, I went to Mohawk after. I never planned on it. Never planned on doing anything formal. It was just, I came from a household where it was like important to go to or post-secondary education. I was like, I don't know, like, and then that was when I saw this recording thing about that had Foley, but something maybe was I don't know what was up with that. I don't know why I didn't choose that. There was a reason, I can't remember. And then Mohawk in Hamilton had a jazz thing. I was
Yeah.
like, oh, I've heard Bitches Brew. I dig jazz. Let's do this. That was my introduction to jazz, by the way. It was Bitches Brew.
Oh, heavy.
Yeah. I was like, jazz is great. Holy,
Yeah.
it's like fucking woo, you know.
Exactly.
And then like, you know, we get to first year Mohawk and it's like, here's, you know, Cab Calloway. I'm like, what the hell is this garbage?
Oh
So,
man.
I mean, obviously my, you know, my ears and tastes have matured a lot, but I was like, oh, that's, I mean, I guess Buddy Rich was jazz. That was like another like, oh, Buddy Rich drum solos jazz. Anyway, so I was like, I'll just do music. Like music's fun. I'll just do music. I'll
Yeah.
go to Mohawk for music. And yeah, so there was no real like grand ambition
Yeah.
to further that, like formally. It was just a school, and I had Kevin Dempsey as my great drummer who we all know and Sarah works with. He was my like adjudicator, I guess, like juror to get in.
Oh yeah, the audition.
Yeah, audition guy, you know. And I remember telling him, like, he was like, all right, play me some jazz. And I took like a couple of lessons before just to like know what a jazz thing is, you know. And like it was whatever. But I think Kevin, you know, if I do say so, but like I wanted to be there. I was like, I want to play. Like I can play and I love playing. And I don't know much about jazz, but I want to be here, you know. I didn't say that, but I think that was my attitude, which it was. I think he just got that. He's like, yeah, come on in, you know.
Wow.
He passed. He gave me a passing mark because I remember like he's like, all right, do me a play time and ding 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 ding. He's like, all right, like trade fours, and I was like, you know, like metal, and like it wasn't happening. But like I wanted to learn, and I definitely had some thing, you know, musically that could be fostered. So
obviously, well, it worked out, you know.
yeah. No, I thank Kevin. You know, it's like thanks for giving me the opportunity. I mean, I never really formally said that, but I think that to go because I met, you know, great people at that school, great friends, great teachers. It was amazing.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Wow, super heavy. Yeah. Oh man, but yeah, we owe a lot to our teachers. That's for
sure. Oh my God. Yeah. Mike Malone, forget about it. Shout out to Mike Malone.
Yeah.
Man, Dave McMurdo. I mean, who else would you have known from Mohawk? Anthony McKelly for me, but have you worked with Anthony McKelly?
No, I haven't. I've seen him play tons of times. He's amazing.
Yeah, he's the best.
Yeah.
I mean, so many. Bob Hamper. Do you know Bob Hamper?
I don't know.
He led the vocalists, and my first ensemble at Mohawk was the jazz choir.
Oh, cool.
And Bob Hamper was the teacher. He was great.
Okay, nice.
Anyway,
very cool.
So many great teachers.
Yeah, I know, eh? Yeah, we're very, very lucky.
Yeah.
Yeah. You have a really like eclectic taste in music. Like where are all the influences coming from?
Like in terms of styles of music or just general type of thing? Well, here, okay, in music, I love nuance, and I was saying this earlier, nuance and subtlety. So there's a whole broad selection or, you know, world of music out there that has that. There's a small little bit that doesn't, you know, like today's pop music and stuff. I mean, there's some, I guess, a little bit of nuance and subtlety, but not a lot of imperfection. So nuance, subtlety, imperfection are things that I gravitate towards in music. And there's a lot of music that has that. Not all three in one, but that kind of, that soup. And, you know, music that has a little bit of improvisational elements to it. You know, honest music. You can tell that someone's meaning what they're doing. So that covers a whole wide thing of music. So that's kind of why I enjoy listening to just music and sounds. I listen to sounds, you know, like music to me is watching a Foley artist do great footsteps. and like I use that as much as I use a Paul Motian solo. If I listen to like Paul Motian play, and I get the same influence as watching a Foley artist manipulate props and the sound and the nuance and all that. That's all. So yeah,
Wow. Yeah,
yeah,
yeah. That spirit, that like,
yeah. Lots. So there's lots of music.
yeah.
To, there's so much music out there. It's crazy. Uh.
Makes you feel like life is so short. It really does. Like, I don't know, this whole
Yeah.
pandemic thing, especially, life is short. Like, just check out what we can while we're here, and enjoy it and be in the moment and
What do
really
you think?
listen, you
Do
know?
you like the modern time of like having anything at your fingertips, or did you? Because we come from an era of before internet,
Hmm.
or do you like tracking something down via an encyclopedia, and you have to go to the library to like find this weird music or something? You know what I
Yeah,
mean? Like,
that.
is it? Do you does one resonate more than the other, or is it do you kind of like both ways of getting music?
Well, yeah, I mean, like, whew, I like the hunt. I
Yeah,
like,
sure.
yeah, for sure. It's part of the search, right?
Yeah, yeah.
I was talking to Harley about this the other day. We were talking about lyrics being available. Like, I think there's like a thing on one of the streaming sites. Maybe it's Apple Music. I don't
Hmm.
know. And like, so you can be watching or listening, I should say, to a song
Right, right, right.
on your screen, which listening to something on a screen, and then but it'll automate the lyrics for you.
Oh, okay.
So, but there's like that missing element of, like, I remember in high school, like, I was obsessed with Counting Crows,
Yeah.
August and Everything After. Just that I had it, I had it on cassette, and it was like 10 feet away from the piano in the living room, and I would go back and forth and play pause, and write down the lyrics.
Yeah, I
Um,
did the same thing. Okay, but
did you? Oh,
yeah, yeah, yeah. Go ahead. Go.
nice. Oh,
And so did you do the whole album or something?
yeah, like
Yeah,
almost
yeah.
like I feel like I did like
Wow.
at least half the album, and like double spaced it, and then I lifted the chords, and that was my first
Oh,
time
wow. Okay.
like like doing that, like lifting chords.
Wow. And were you hip to that before? Or were you just doing that out of like curiosity? Like, did you know what you were doing, kind of thing? Like, oh, I'm lifting, or were you just like, I'm enjoying this and I'm going to figure it out?
That, yeah, that,
Yeah.
like, I didn't know what lifting was till like jazz school,
Right. Yeah. Same. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah, just like, but that experience is super unforgettable for me
Mm,
because it was painstaking, and I think there's something missing in everything being so accessible these days.
yeah.
You don't have that journey, you don't have that learning experience. It's a very slow learning experience, and the brain learns slowly. It's like, it's good to take your time, and like this, like, who knows what other lights went on in that whole
Yeah.
process,
Yeah.
anyway.
Good point.
You know what I'm saying, like, but at the
Yeah.
same time, it's super awesome to have everything at our fingertips, but knowing that we have the capability within ourselves as human beings to discover it for ourselves, and maybe to take the time to really check things out and hunt things down, and like
Mm,
you're like hunting down Italian library music, like,
yeah.
that's something you have to dig for. It's worth
Yeah.
it, you know?
It is. Uh, yeah. And it's, I guess with like the online stuff, it's like a quick hit. Like you can get your quick hit of like an album. Um, and getting too many quick hits is not good for the long haul. I
No.
think you do need to have that slow burn. You got to go on the hunt. You got to go put an effort in and go find something. If you're getting too much, I don't. Yeah, like you're saying about the brain learning, or I don't think it settles in.
Yeah.
There isn't like the search, the ingest, the settling in, going on to the next search. Like now it's just like, it's like, what was that album? Who? I don't even remember how that goes anymore. Where's that thing? Give me the next one,
Yeah, yeah.
give me 1,000 albums
And
right
everything's
now.
all on this glass screen,
Yeah.
like, that's like the medium. It's just all through these screens, as we know right now. Like, as opposed to going to the library, finding the cassette tapes, finding the DVDs,
Yeah.
or whatever. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Or the books or whatever,
Book.
like just like that experience of like the smell of the room that you're in, and the paper, or the the touch of all that
Yeah.
stuff. Like it's just
Yeah.
the senses are just totally lacking in that learning
Yeah.
experience with all this stuff.
Good point. Yeah. You're 100% right. Yeah.
Yeah, that is so cool. Yes, and great songwriting, like all
Yeah,
around. Yeah.
because I wasn't a fan in high school when they were like kind of on our radar, pop music. I was like a little deep into like the hard stuff. I was literally into the Jack Daniels of music, Metallica
Oh,
and Motley Crue and whatever. But so it just, I couldn't appreciate it then. So seeing them live 20 years later and thinking like, oh, Counting Crows, like what, like whatever. But 20 years later, being a professional musician, and then like suspending all of those old thoughts and watching and going, holy shit, these guys are good. These songs are great. And these guys are playing the shit out of them.
wow.
I was floored. I loved it.
Amazing.
Great.
Oh my
Yeah.
gosh. Yeah.
Yeah.
Nice. Well, yeah, right? 30 years. Wow, 30 years.
Yeah. What?
Oh, crazy, crazy, crazy. Well, I mean, like, we haven't really talked about your Brazilian sort of
Wax? Yeah, we
yeah,
can. So I went to,
yeah.
oh no.
This delayed
Got
reaction.
it.
Yeah, so you're you're into some Brazilian music.
Yes.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. That started, when did that start? Early 2000s. Mohawk. So at school, I was getting hip to like Brazilian jazz, like as we all were, in like jazz school. When you hear Brazilian music, you're going to hear all that stuff. Um, how did I get involved? Well, I just heard like, I can't quite remember. Anyway, I played with Alan Hetherington, who had a band, a bateria called the Escola de Samba de Toronto. And oh, I heard it. I heard that song and I was like, I want to do that. It really resonated with me. So I got involved with Alan and his band. That's where I met this guy, Ernest, who, 20 years later talked to me about library music, and fell in love with it immediately. Never like dedicated my life to it or anything. Like Alan dedicated his life to it, and some other people I know, Canadians, dedicating their life to Brazilian music and culture. I just loved it and wanted to be involved with it. I've just been kind of doing it in some way since the early 2000s, playing in Alan's band, playing all the different instruments in a batucada. There's different drumming, different drums, different percussion instruments within the band. So I got a chance to play all of them in some way. And now I play with Batucada Carioca, led by Maninho Costa from Rio. Came up to Toronto about 10 years ago. Maybe, he came up right when I was leaving Alan's band. Not leaving, but like when I wasn't playing consistently with Alan's band, he was at Toronto. So yeah, like early 2000s. Anyway, so he's been in Canada like 15 years. And I'm playing with his band now, but haven't played Brazilian music in that form literally since February, literally a year. Because we were going to take March off, or not take March off, but we were ramping up in February because we had a gig. Like now, like March, like the first weekend of March, we were going to have a gig. I don't know. Anyway, we were playing really hard in February and then not. So I haven't done that since. And that sucks. That sucks. Because that's just, there's a whole thing going on now. The power of a band like that. I mean, bands in Carnival, in samba schools and baterias, they're hundreds deep. Ours is like 20, but it's still something to be playing with that power. So yeah, still doing all that, and then just learning about, I'm studying Portuguese. I've been doing that for about a year and a half now. Just, just to learn more about the lyrics, because the music is so, it's very lyrical. It's about the song. And everyone in the bateria knows the lyrics, they know the song, and they sing along. And that's how they learn the song when they play the instruments. Me, I think of it technically. I'm like, okay, 1, 2, 3, 4, 2, 2, 3, 4. Like I'm thinking of like bars, because I don't understand. I can hear that. I can hear the melody, and I can like link with the melody, but I don't know what they're saying. So it's a combination of like knowing the melody and like knowing technically within the form where I am, but they don't think that way. They think song, like, lyrics and melody. They don't know how many bars it is. I'm sure they do, but they don't think of it that way. I have to think of it that way. So I wanted to learn Portuguese to learn the lyrics, to be able to sing the songs and kind of get out of that brain and just like play the instrument and know the form of the arrangement based on the lyrics and the melody. So I just did like online, like an app, and studying Portuguese.
Wow, that's so cool. Oh man,
Yeah.
that's inspiring. I've been meaning to learn Portuguese, to sing in Portuguese for
Right.
years. And
Yeah. Yeah.
I just really suck at languages and singing in languages. But we might have to chat a little bit more about this.
Yeah.
Find out more about that app too. That sounds cool.
Yeah. Yeah. It's Duolingo.
Oh,
Yeah,
nice.
it's
Okay.
Duolingo.
Oh,
And
nice. Yeah.
yeah, I talked to Ashley too. I think Ashley's checked out the Brazilian thing a little bit. Like, I think she got some of the Portuguese together, like for songs. Like,
Okay.
here's Agua de Março or something like that, and like sang, like knew the lyrics for that. Like, I don't think she speaks Portuguese, but she got the lyrics
Yeah.
together.
You can learn it, right? Like totally. That's wow. That's a hard song too. Like
Well, I don't know if it was that song. I just thought of something off the top of my head.
that's the one that I would love to do though. It's so beautiful, and it sounds so beautiful when it's sung in Portuguese too.
Yeah.
Like it's a totally different everything
Yeah.
when it's sung.
Yeah, no, for sure. It is. You're right. I
Yeah,
agree.
yeah,
And
yeah,
that's how they play the music, like that beautifully. It's
yeah,
inspiring.
yeah.
Yeah,
Wow, so cool. Wow. Let's touch on one more thing before we finish up.
sure.
I wanted to ask about SoundSound,
Hmm.
and just talk about maybe the history of SoundSound and what it is, and yeah, because it's
Yeah.
awesome.
Oh, thanks. SoundSound is it's an improvised music n- n- now. Well, it's an improvised music series and an improvised music duo with Joe Lapinski, our dear friend, great engineer, great musician, great singer-songwriter. Um, we connected over our love of improvised music uh, like 8 years ago, I think. And up until that time, we never really knew each other. We knew of each other, but we never played any music together or anything like that. So yeah, I don't know how it started. So it started somehow, but we got together and we started it as a series. It was called SoundSound Improvised Music Series. And it started off weekly or monthly uh, at Mate Cafe in St. Catharines, Ontario.
Hmm.
And it was to showcase guests, have other people. And it wasn't just Joe and I improvising together. We'd have guests come out and improvise with us. Um, and it was a bit more of a series. We had like events or things kind of around it. And then over time, it just became SoundSound just as a duo. Um, and in more recent times, Joe and I have had the first Monday of every month at Mate, um, where we have a guest or not, and we just improvise for a couple of sets. And yeah, we've been doing that. Yeah, it's been 8 years or so ish
Wow.
now, and we've done some events, some festivals in Niagara, some shows, basement shows and stuff. So it's not just at Mate, but Yeah, that's so it started with Joe and I and our love for improvised music and seeing what we could come up with.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's phenomenal and like so important for downtown St. Catharines, the scene, to
Hmm.
have that presence and that sort of, you know, that sort of thing happening. It's so cool. Like was it in the soil a couple of years ago?
You're right. Yeah.
Beautiful. Beautiful.
Yeah, and there's a people enjoy listening to it. They, there's a bit of um, an interest in it, because people didn't even know they were into it, or so because it's not happening too much in St. Catharines. Some people hate it, and some people dig it, and and for the people that dig it, well, then there's something happening. And Joe and I know some incredible improvisers, like forget about it, improvisers that are really dedicated their life to that craft and are very in tune with making music that way. And to have them come out as guests, it's special for us and special for the audience.
Yeah.
So that's been a bonus for sure.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Seen some great shows like Colin Fisher and
Shout out to Colin Fisher.
yeah.
Forget about it. Yeah, he's great.
Yeah.
Talk about someone dedicating their life to that craft. It's yeah, he's fantastic.
So great. That was a beautiful show. And like also just the vibe in the mate itself, like that room
Mhm.
is special and it is like kudos to Chris Lowe's for like setting up a place where people can just do their thing.
Yeah,
And it's like friendly and casual and people just hang out and like I don't know, the times that I've come to see SoundSound, it's just been this sort of it's like a spell, you
yeah,
know? Like you just kind of settle in, you're like, "Oh, I didn't realize how like how tense I was or whatever." And you just start to like, yeah,
yeah,
and I kind of like get into like a trancey kind of place, you know. It's really it's a good experience.
yeah. I agree.
Yeah, so hopefully.
Yeah, and that's another thing. Our last one was the first Monday of March 2020, so about almost a year ago now
Yeah.
was the last show. Um,
Crazy.
so yeah, that's literally coming up to a year to the day.
I know that anniversary is going to be really harsh. We had our last Dream Logic show at the Mate. I think it was
Yeah,
February
that was right around now too.
3rd. Yeah, so
Yeah,
that's yeah around that anniversary, and then we played the Transac
yeah,
at the beginning of March, and that
that's right.
then yeah, and that
I
was
think
it.
that was my last. No, because the Transac was on a Sunday.
Yeah.
Then the Monday I had SoundSound.
Oh,
I think that was it. That was the last for me.
did I go to that show? I feel like I was there.
Yeah, maybe.
Maybe.
Yeah,
Yeah. Anyway, yeah, it's yeah, we got to get back into
weird,
that.
eh?
Yeah. Sometime soon, please.
Some of the groove. I'll be honest. Like some of the rat race chilling out has been quite nice. I've been running my tail as a million other musicians have for their whole career, and a year breather wasn't all that bad. Um,
Yeah.
and I definitely have like going forward. There's just some new choices I'm going to make in terms of like pursuing or taking on, you know, projects and stuff.
Yeah.
You know.
Yes. This was a really like you know it sucks, but it's also like as with anything in life, good or bad, it's a teacher,
Mhm.
and it's all about balance, like in priority, like what you choose, how you choose to spend the time that you have here, and
Yep.
those priorities. I know I felt the same like that first week or two where it was like, oh, what's happening? You know, checking phone, doom scrolling, but at the same time, it was like, oh, I really like I can feel my shoulders slightly.
Yeah.
You know, and it was like silver lining to have that extra time to work on projects, to work on writing, to work on whatever, practicing, just like, or breathing, or
Yep.
just like eating well, sleeping well.
100%. Yeah. Yeah. Agree to all of that. Yeah.
Yeah,
Same.
yeah, yeah. So we'll come back like recharged and it's gonna be whatever it is, but
Yep.
it's gonna be something.
Something. Yeah, for sure.
So last little thing.
Yeah.
You have do you want to talk about um what you may have a little performance for us that we're gonna
Yeah, yeah.
hear?
This, yeah, yeah. This little performance is just a little solo piece that I performed in the moment, super improvised, no nothing. It was hit the button and go. Um, and that's what happened. This is what happened.
Thank you so much again for joining me today.
Oh yeah, you're welcome.
It was really, really awesome. It was a
It
great
was, yeah.
chat. Yeah.
Thanks for having me. Great to chat with you.
Thanks for watching Artistic Digs. Stay tuned for the next episode featuring Rob McBride.